What is the point in being creative? This is something that I think about all the time, and I've wanted to make this video for quite a while now in the hopes that it might help and encourage some people out there to shed some light on this dynamic that happens around creativity, particularly in the context of our society. And so I'm a filmmaker and a musician, and I've dedicated my entire life to creativity. I spend so much of my time working on music and film projects, and I do both of these things professionally and personally. And so there are elements of what I do that I get paid for, and then there are things that I don't get paid for. And separating these two styles of creativity out, I think, can be really useful to understand what the value is in each of them, and I'll get a bit more into that later on. And really, this is just my experience and my own musings on the subject, but I thought sharing this could help other people, and I think it could provide some kind of value. So if you're watching this video, then you might have the perspective that you are not a creative person. And I hear this quite a lot. And when I hear this, I literally want to shake people and say to them that just by being alive, just by talking, moving, breathing, the way that you do, thinking the way that you are the purest form of creative expression, of creation. You are literally creating your reality. And it doesn't get much more creative than that. And being creative, it goes far, far beyond just creating something for someone else to enjoy. The act of creativity, it's an act of expression. I like to call it an act of catharsis. It is the process where we take our perspective, our unique perspective on the world, all of the emotions and all of the memories that we have ever experienced, and we process that and we sculpt it into something, because everything that we create is an amalgamation of all of those things and lots more. And this process can be incredibly cathartic. It can be really helpful for getting to know yourself better. It can be helpful for processing difficult emotions. It helps us realize our most whole and fully expressed selves. And this is such an essential part of being human. I would call it a fundamental aspect of being a human, because we're so evolved to be able to create art and to be able to reflect on the world in this way. And it can provide real emotional processing and emotional regulation. And who doesn't want that? We are happier when we are our most whole and fully expressed versions of ourselves. And this kind of ties into a bigger philosophy about the world and the way that we're connected to it. And it's called personal planetary health. And this idea, which I won't get into now, but kind of is related to what I'm going to talk about, is that if we are our most whole and fully expressed selves, i.e. our most happy and regulated selves, then the world we create will also be a happy, regulated, fully expressed one. And I love this idea that we can connect to nature in a better way. We can build more holistic systems. We can basically create the world in a really positive mirror image of ourselves. And we can contribute to the world in a positive way, making it a better place. And I love this idea. I think it's such a beautiful concept that gives us full license to be creative, regardless of the outcome or regardless of whether we're being compensated for it in whatever way. So this concept is particularly important in the context of capitalism and the value that capitalism places on different forms of art. And there's this idea that unless you're creating something that someone else is buying that has value in our society, or like monetary value, that unless you are creating that, then what you're creating is worthless. I literally want to wage war on this idea, because I think that creativity and art should really be for and from ourselves. It should be this authentic expression of your unique perspective on the world. And I really dislike this idea that if we're not being paid to do this creative thing, then we often don't see the point. And really, I want to remind people that the point is to express ourselves and to process those emotions and to get to know ourselves better, because that journey in itself is such a valuable and beautiful thing to do. I think that there are probably a lot of people out there that feel compromised in this way because of this idea of value in art, and most of the time it's financial. It's the monetary value that we place on art. And I think that there are probably a lot of people out there that feel compromised or restricted in this way because of this perspective around art and around creativity and the monetary value that we place on it. And so people often think that there's just no point in creating because they're not a creative person, or that their job's not creative. And really, I just want to remind people that it's so intrinsically important for us to go through that process to better understand ourselves, to process these difficult emotions, to widen that perspective of how we see the world and the different things that happen to us in it. And I think this is such a worthwhile sentiment to share and remind people about. I think there might also be a lot of people out there where their job is creative, and I'm one of those people, and I'm often trying to remind myself to pursue passion projects, to go and do things that I'm not getting paid for, and those creative pursuits are truly unrestricted. There's no client boxes to tick, there's no brief to work to. It's just a full, unadulterated, authentic expression. And those projects are the ones that often get the most attention, and often clients will come and see that work and ask if they can have something similar. And the feeling that I get from those projects far outweighs any sort of paid work I've ever done. And that's another reason why I'm creating this channel, because I just want to put stuff out into this world that I think will have a positive impact. One crucial element of pursuing passion projects is, I think, the intention. I think that you need to go into it understanding that this is for you, and even the idea that your peers and your friends will see it, that also influences how you might shape whatever you're doing. And I think being aware of this is also super important, so that you can always try and anchor back to your own intention and your own kind of vision for the project. So to summarize, I really just want to encourage people out there to look beyond the value that our society places on art and different forms of creative expression. I think that we just need to drop into how we feel and what it feels like in our body to do that thing, and what we feel like afterwards, and really become attuned to whether or not that's something that feels good for us. There's probably a lot more to be said about this subject, but it's definitely not the last time I'll speak about this. I think these themes will become recurring through lines in my channel and things that I talk about. So I hope you found this musing valuable. It's something that I'm probably going to shed more and more light on generally, because I want to encourage people to be more creative, to find more creative avenues that they can explore. And I want people to feel like they can do that without restriction, and that they don't have to fit into this idea of artists or people that make money from creative expression. I really appreciate you being here and taking the time to watch this video. Good luck with your creative pursuits, and I'll see you in the next one.